Darryl, congratulations on being inducted in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
I have a few questions I'm going to ask you about your background and about wrestling. The first one is, what individual or individuals had the greatest influence on your wrestling career?
Oh, as I think back over the years, there's lots of individuals that impacted my career. I think early on, my high school coach, Marlon Marino, just took the time to care more for me as a person than he did as an athlete. Then as I got into to college, Coach T.J. Kerr just taught me how to be, how to train and how to be intense and how to be tough and how to just fight and persevere. Later on, ran into people like Stephen Neal, working with him. Just a tremendous blessing to see how successful one can be and the power of the mind. Phenomenal individual. But guys like Lou Montano, workout partner from Cal Poly, Jesse Reyes, national champ for Cal State Bakersfield, phenomenal technician, helped me a lot. And then, of course, a local guy here from Bakersfield, Danny Castaneda, taught me how to attack the weights as opposed to lift them. And so, off the top of my head, those are several individuals that impacted me.
Darryl, did you have an idol in wrestling?
You know, I wouldn't say I had an idol. As a young boy, fourth grade, I think I read the book about Dan Gable. And so that was probably initially, I guess you could call him an idol. And then later on, just as I got older and got into college, really idolized the way that John Smith competed and the way John Smith wrestled. So yeah, those are two of the names. When you say the word idol, I guess those are two of the top names that I would have.
How did you get started in wrestling?
Interesting story. I started in about, I think, third grade. A friend of mine came to school and he had his finger in a splint. I asked him what happened, and he said that he had heard it the night before in wrestling practice. And I said, "Wrestling? What's that?" And so he told me about it and asked me if I wanted to come. And sure enough, followed through, went to practice, had my first wrestling practice, loved it, and been with it ever since.
What do you attribute your success in wrestling to? Any particular personality characteristic or physical attribute? Or?
Yeah, I think my strongest asset is probably just persevering, just keeping on, and believing that I can beat anybody if I'm willing to outwork them. And that's what I loved about wrestling. You know, basketball, you got to be pretty darn tall to slam the basketball. Football, you got to be pretty darn big to play on the defensive line, or you got to be world-class speed to run the ball. But wrestling, you can be tall, short, skinny, weak, strong, and if you're willing to outwork your opponent, you can be successful. And so I think that is one asset that I have. I always believed that if I was willing to work hard enough and long enough, I could be successful.
Darryl, is there an outstanding situation or memory that you have related to wrestling? Any situation that came up in your career?
I think I have two powerful memories. One is when I was competing. I was a sophomore at San Jose State. I was wrestling up at 167 pounds. I was a 58-pounder. And our 58-pounder at the time got kicked off the team. And I wanted to go 58s the whole year. Coach wouldn't let me challenge, said that the guy was better than me, wouldn't let me challenge. So finally, that individual, though, had some discipline problems, got kicked off the team. I asked Coach, can I go 58s then? He said, yeah, sure, go ahead. I went 58s and went to the league meet conference, PCAA conference. I beat the number 7 ranked guy in the country to qualify for the Nationals. At that time, you had to win the PCAAs to go. And I beat that guy to qualify for the Nationals, and I went to the Nationals. I was unranked. I was unseeded. I was unheard of. I had a pigtail match against the number 5 seed in the national championships. I ended up pinning that guy, and then had a great tournament. Ended up 5th in the country, though, that year as a sophomore, being unranked, unseeded, unheard of, and a coach telling me, I'm not going to let you go 58s because the guy I got's better. And so luckily that guy went down. I was able to get the spot, and so became an All-American that year. And that was a very exciting time for me as a competitor. And then years later as a coach in 1999, we had recruited an individual named Stephen Neal from San Diego High School, and he made the world team in 1999, and I went with him to the World Championships in Turkey as his training partner and his coach. And I remember sitting in his corner and watching him slay the Russian for the World Championships, thinking to myself that I sat in the Spano Center in Stockton and watched this guy take 4th in the state of California at 189 pounds, and 5 years later, I'm sitting in the Atarik Sports Arena in Ankara, Turkey, watching him slay the Russian and win the World Championships. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal moment. So blessed to be a part of Stephen Neal's success. Wonderful moment.
Darryl, in your own career, is there one individual match that stands out? I know you talked about your situation, your memory of going to the Nationals and unseated and so forth. Is there a particular match?
Interesting enough, there is, and it's probably not the match that you would think, but I remember my sophomore year, we were wrestling in a tournament called Caesar's Palace Invitational, and I was wrestling 67s. I was a 58-pounder. I was unseated, and it was the second round of the tournament, and I wrestled someone named Mike Sheets from the Oklahoma State University. He was a two-time defending national champion, won his 3rd title that year. And he beat the tar out of me. He beat me 24-0. That's before they had the tech rule. And he was a legger. He threw in the legs. He didn't even give me an escape. I didn't even get 1 point. He beat me 24-0. But I remember walking off that mat and thinking to myself, okay, that's what it takes to be a national champ. That's the type of intensity that it takes. That's the type of toughness. That's the type of meanness. And just from having wrestled Sheets in that match, I walked off with a whole different perception of what I needed to do and where I needed to get. And so he kind of set the bar and showed me the target. And so I think that one match for me stands out because it really showed me, okay, that's where you need to, that's what you need, that's how you wrestle. So.
Why did you decide to become a coach?
I never really thought, when I graduate, I want to be a coach. One thing just kind of led to another. I ended up working for the California Youth Authority as a group supervisor, and then another year as a youth counselor. And one day I got a call from Coach Kerr at Cal State Bakersfield, and he said, hey, I just lost my assistant coach, Lou Montano. He got hired as the head coach at Columbia University in New York. I need a coach. I want you to apply. Came down, applied for the position, interviewed for the position, received the position, and turned out to be a wonderful gig. My first year as an assistant, we went back to the national championships. We didn't win a single match. And 5 years later, we won the Pac-10s. We took 3rd in the country. I was voted the National Assistant Coach of the Year. And so it was very, very blessed and fortunate to kind of just fall into wrestling and be a part of the Cal State's program as an assistant coach.
If you could start all over again, what would you like to do differently related to your career as either a wrestler or as a coach?
Oh, that's I would. I think about my senior season, and it was by far my most successful. It was my most fun. I fell short of my goal. I was 44-0 going into the national championships. I wanted to be an undefeated national champion. I lost the final match of my career in the finals to Chipperelli from the University of Iowa. But I think back, I was so dominant that year. I think 37 of my 44 matches I teched or pinned. And the reason I was so dominant is because I had made a decision that I didn't think I could be beat. And I trained with that type of intensity. I trained as if I didn't think I could be beat. And that attitude came from some of the workout partners I had at that time, Lou Montano, Jesse Reyes. They always talked about being a national champ, being a national champ. Up to that point in my career, it was always, being All-American, being All-American. That's all you heard them talk about was, by your 5th year, maybe you can be an All-American. And when I ran into Lou Montano and Jesse Reyes had come in that time and were coaching me and training, all they talked about was being a national champ. And I thought about it, I said, that makes so much sense. Why would you want anything less? And so if I had to do it over again, right from the get-go, I would be focused on being, if it's high school, being a state champ. If it's college, being a national champ. And I wouldn't stop there. I'd have a vision of being an Olympian because it's so powerful to believe that you can be the best there is. Why sell yourself short? You work too hard and too long to focus on anything less.
What would you like people to remember about you?
As an athlete, I would like them to remember that this guy gave 110% in his training and in his competition, and did it every minute, every hour of every day. As a coach, I like them to think that it was a guy that cared more about their success than his own. So, yeah.
How has wrestling contributed to your life?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. I come from a tough background, family of 6. 2 of my siblings didn't even graduate high school. My father dropped out of high school in his sophomore year. So I'm a first-generation college student. And, my dad, he's 77 years old. He's driving a dirt dump truck to this very day because he can't afford to retire and live off of Social Security. And I would be just like my dad. I would be uneducated, physical labor, trying to make ends meet from day to day. But today I'm living a very fortunate life. I have a wonderful wife of 22 years. I have 2 wonderful kids. Great job as a principal. It's very secure, pays the bills. I have wonderful friends and a support group. And so I feel very blessed to be living the life that I'm living, and it's all because of the people that I've surrounded myself with, and most of those people are wrestling people. They're good people, and they've been good to me, and I'm fortunate that wrestling came into my life.
Darryl, congratulations. Thank you for all you brought to wrestling with your background. Thank you so much.
Thank you.